Hi everybody, Apple Guy Kingsley here. Happy Halloween. Or as my friend from Tales from the Crypt would say, Happy Halloween! That was a bad Crypt Keeper. So, the reason I am here is to help you, so that my death will not be in vain. And my life's... Oh wait, sorry. There's a scream flashback. Happy Halloween! So I want to tell you some eerie stories. I wouldn't say they're all scary, but they're eerie. I'm like a retarded pumpkin. So the first one is a fairly classic story. Both two of them are, and the third one's kind of more unique. The story for the first one, if you've never heard this before, is called The Hook. Although this is kind of like the claw. It's not. It's the hook. Anyway, so the tale is that there are two people. Let me get my scary face on. There are two young teenagers sitting on a hill, and they've been making out. And then they're playing music in the background as they're making out. And then a sudden scary news report comes on, reporting that an insane killer has escaped from the county jail. He's been considered completely mentally deranged. The girl is suddenly scared. She's like, oh no, maybe we should leave. And the boy is, oh, don't worry about it, Susie. Come on. You really think he's going to come up here? The girl says, how do you know he's not? He says, come on. He's not going to come to a hill. He's going to go anywhere. He's going to get out of town. So Susie relaxes as the young man begins to caress her body and touch her. And he's getting a boner. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, then they hear a scratch at the door. The girl's like, what was that? The boy says, it was nothing. It was just the seatbelt moving or something. Don't worry about it. Stop being so freaked out. Nothing's going to happen. So they begin to touch each other again. And she hears that noise again. And she says, I just don't want to stay here anymore. Take me home. He's like, I'm obviously not getting any tonight. Fine, I'll take you home. So he drives the young woman home, takes Susie back to her house. She says, I'm really sorry. I really wanted to spend more time with you tonight, but I was just so scared about this whole news story. The young man says, Susie, it was no big deal, but fine. Tomorrow night, though, I'm getting anal. I mean it. No matter what I say, you got to do it. She says, okay. So the young man gets out of his car and walks around to open Susie's door. And there, on the door handle, is a hook. Not like Captain Hook, but like the insane, deranged middle guy's hook. Although it could have been a hat hook or like a coat hook, but I'm pretty sure it was from the deranged guy. Because I mean, what would a hat hook or a coat hook be doing out on the top of the hill? You know, just saying. The next story. Let's see if I did it. Jack Nicholson voice. Next story is called High Beams. And I'm not talking about the Hooters of Madonna. So it seems that there's this young lady who goes to her high school prom. That's going to get irritating. I'm going to stop doing that. I'll go back to the scary voice. It seems there's this young lady who goes to her high school prom. And she lives in a small town. And her home is very far out in the rural areas. She goes alone to the party because her date is completely bashed before the party even starts, and he's throwing up hugging a toilet somewhere. Anyway, she goes to the party, and she spends the evening, and she's one of the last people to leave. Well, she finally goes out and gets in her car as the last few people go and leave. she begins to drive the long distance home along a deserted highway. No houses, no buildings for miles around. And as she's driving, she notices a pair of high beams in her rearview mirror. They're not too far away, but they're back there, and they seem to be getting closer, faster. So she thinks nothing about it. She just keeps driving because they go off after a minute. She keeps driving, and then a couple of minutes later, she sees the high beams in her rearview mirror again, but this time they're closer. She's a little disturbed. She's wondering if the person in the car behind her is trying to pass. So she tries to move over, but the car moves in motion where she moves. She thinks to herself, I don't know what's going on, but I need to get off this road. My turn's coming up soon. So she comes to her turn and she takes it. And she thinks maybe it's quiet because she doesn't see the high beams in her rearview mirror. Then she's driving along, getting closer and closer to home, and then suddenly the high beams flash in her rearview mirror again. But they're closer this time, within feet. She doesn't know what's going on. She slams on the pedal and it chokes, picks up speed. She's going faster and faster, rushing towards her home. The high beams keep flashing on and off in her rearview mirror. She's terrified. She cannot control herself. She can't even think, just like I can when I'm trying to tell the story, because it's disturbing. So she pulls quickly at almost 90 miles an hour and into her driveway. She jumps out of her car and screams, Daddy, Daddy, there's someone chasing me. Just as the man in the car jumps out from the high beam car, she's like, oh my God. Her father comes out and says, I'll blow your fucking head off, bitch. Get the fuck out my yard. The man says, no, not me. In the car. Motioning to the woman's car. The father goes over and looks in the young girl's car, and in the back seat there's a man with a knife. Like a sharp knife, not like a Dixie knife. Like, it's not like a cake knife, like not like one of those you get at a fast food joint. It's like a real knife, like a pointy one. Like, ow, that would hurt. Just saying. Okay, finally, the last story is eerie, but it's kind of romantic eerie. So here's this story. It seems that there was this man who had 3 boys, and this woman who had 3... Oh, I'm sorry, that's a Brady Bunch. Oh, yeah, I'm in this right now. So there's this young couple that are from different sides of the tracks, as it were. And they fall desperately in love, but the father refuses to accept the boy as his daughter's boyfriend. He doesn't want them to be anywhere near each other. So he says one day to her, because he can't keep them apart, he says, I'm sending you away. You will never see him again. She says, no, Daddy, no. He says, I don't care. I don't want you seeing him again. So she's sent away to school. Time goes by, and they start exchanging letters at first, but then the letters dropped off from him, and she didn't hear from him, and she thought she would never see him again. 2 years pass, and then she gets a notice from her mother saying that her father is very ill and is about to die, and that she should come home to see him. She thinks to herself, there's no way I can afford to go home. I don't have the money. I can't even see my father. I'm just stuck here. As she sits in her dorm room one night crying, there's a knock on her door. Oh, sorry, that was me. Scared myself. Anyway, so she goes to the door. She opens it, and there is her boyfriend, the young man who she had left behind 2 years earlier because of her father. He says, I'm here to take you to see your father. She says, how? You came all this way to help me? I didn't think you ever wanted to talk to me again. I haven't heard from you in a long time. He says, that's not important right now. Let's just get you home to see your dad. It's important. So she gathers a few things, and they jump into his carriage, because this is olden times. So, like, they don't have, like, a Maserati or anything. They have a horse and buggy, like So she gets in his carriage with him, and they begin the long journey home. And it's going to be a couple of days just to get home by horse and carriage, a week or something. But over the course of this week, she starts to notice that the young man is very ill. He's having a lot of trouble keeping himself up and awake and moving because he has just become so slender and weak. She says, "Are you okay?" He says, "I'm fine. We just have to get you home." At one point, things are so bad that she puts a wet rag around his forehead and lays him down in the back of the buggy so he can relax while she drives the horses home. As they near the town, she's like, "We gotta get you to the doctor." He says, "No, you gotta go see your dad. Just go there and we can worry about this later." She says, "I can't do that." He says, "Please, please. I went all that way to get you. I don't want you to miss a chance to see your father." She says, "Okay," reluctantly. And she drives the carriage with the horses home to her home. She goes to him and says, "Come on, let's go inside." He says, "No, you go. I'm just going to stay here and rest." She says, "Are you sure?" He says, "Yes, I'm sure." So she runs inside to see her mother. And her father is still there, but he's very ill. She goes in and sees her father, and he's so brittle, and he looks so thin and so sick. She tells her father that she loves him. And her mother wonders, "How did you get here so fast? How did you get here?" And she says that her boyfriend, that this young man from years ago, had come to bring her home. And the mother says, "What do you mean?" She says, "Don't you remember the young man I was dating years ago that father hated? He came to help me so I could come home to see father." The mother is awestruck and says, "That can't be, honey. He died almost 2 years ago." The daughter says, "No, you're mistaken. I rode with him in the cart. He's very sick. I need to actually take care of him. Come, I'll show you." So she and her mother go outside to the carriage. But the boy is nowhere to be found. Nowhere at all. After talking to her mother for a while, she can't possibly believe that this is true, that he was dead. She said, "I've seen him. I've touched him. I've been close to him." The mother tells her where he's been buried, in his family's crypt. She decides that she wants to go and see for herself. So that evening, she walks very carefully and with some fear in her heart to the cemetery, to the crypt where his family is kept. She enters the crypt and finds the one carved out with his name on it. She slowly opens the coffin, and there, lying peacefully, is the young man with the rag she tied around his neck, his forehead. He was dead. Just in case you didn't know that part. What do you say about that, Shucky?
Let me out! Let me out! Let me out! Let me out!
Well, what does that have to do with anything?
Go ahead and shoot. I'll be back. I always come back.
Why don't you just be quiet?
That is sick.
The story?
You let me out of here right now.
What is this, anal penetration? I don't have anything in you.
You got your wish. You're mine now, doll.
All right, I've heard enough of you.
Shut up.
I hope you enjoyed these Eerie stories. Have a great and happy Halloween.